Welcome, everyone, to the on-demand recording of our presentation on millennials. The presentation was originally recorded on February 20th, 2019 as a lunch and learn, designed to give our listeners the information that they need without taking up too much of their time. We're doing a series of lunch and learns this year, so please keep an eye out for the next one on informed delivery in March. Over the next 20 minutes, I cover what you need to know about marketing to millennials in 2019, including omnichannel strategies. I did purposely keep this short. I planned for 30 minutes and finished in about 20. This is a topic that I'm very passionate about. I could probably talk about it for 2 hours, but in the interest of time, I did keep it short. A little bit about me. I'm Allison Jensen. I was recently promoted to marketing manager here. I'm very happy for the opportunity to grow with this company. I've been here for about 3 years in a couple different roles. One thing I want to mention up front is that I am a millennial myself. I was born in 1993, so I'm one of them. That being said, I do use the word we a lot when I describe millennials and when sharing some of our collective experiences. I talked to a lot of my peers about this when preparing for the presentation, and they gave me a lot of really great insights. Quick note about Compu-Mail. We work with progressive marketers to increase customer spend by helping them talk to their customers, their donors, their patrons in a way that their competition isn't. We work with a variety of industries, including, but not limited to, retail, nonprofit, education, financial, casino gaming, insurance, and others. And since this is an on-demand recording, I'm not going to go over the housekeeping items, but I will leave them here for your reference if you just want to take a look at what they were. Our contact information is available at the end of the presentation, and you're welcome to reach out to me at any time. For those of you that might be tweeting about this presentation, please use hashtag marketing to millennials so that we can keep the tweets together. That's everything I wanted to cover up front, so if you're ready, here is the previously recorded presentation. So first and foremost, I want to say that millennials feel a bit of an identity crisis, and this is a bit different than the quarter life crisis that my friends and I talk about a lot, but that's a topic for a different day. But this identity crisis comes from the fact that no one really knows who we are. So it's true that we were born between Gen X and Gen Z, and that we're also called Gen Y, but it's not really clear what our age range is. So some research shows that we're between 19 and 42 right now. Some shows that we're between 19 and 39. Others, 23 to 38, 25 to 39. I'd personally say that it's safe to say anyone in their 20s and their early 30s is definitely a millennial, and anyone else, you might have to ask them which group they feel that they really belong to. But whatever the range is, and you can even see here that it's totally different, conflicting from what we just talked about with this breakout. But whatever the age range is, there's 3 subset of millennials. And I like to think of us in terms of the phones that we grew up with. So smartphones for the youngest of the generation, flip phones were the first phones the middle group like myself had, and then, the brick phone type thing some of my older peers might have grown up with. And when you think about the difference between a smartphone and a brick phone, that paints a pretty accurate picture of how different the subsets are. People falling into the different categories are at different stages of where they are in their life, their interests, their hobbies, what they value. It's all different depending on, what part of the millennial generation you're in. Millennials completing their college education are totally different than the ones that have already graduated and are just starting their careers, and different still from those that have been out of college for a while. And honestly, that's even if they go the college route. A trend that I'm seeing is that not everybody is going to college right away because they're traveling or working. And student loan debt is a huge concern for millennials, so I'm not even sure if college is always the highest priority for everyone right now, as it used to be. When I was entering college, it was a huge thing, but even a few years later, it's not as big as it was. Although, while student debt is a huge concern, and it's causing delays in life events like getting married, buying homes, having kids, etc. Our spending power is reported to be a combined $1.4 trillion by next year in 2020. So, what money we do have that we're not funneling to our student loans, we are, using it. So now I want to spend some time on our reputation. I'm going to try to limit my time up here on the soapbox because I do want to keep this presentation short, but I think the millennials have a bad reputation that I'd like to call some attention to up front. It feels like every week there's a new article about the latest industry that we killed, and I just roll my eyes every time. It's not something that we actively go around trying to do. I don't wake up in the morning and think about what industries I want to kill that day. Like, that's not a thing. We're just looking for ways to shake things up and make them better, more convenient, and just better overall. And if you ask anyone to describe us, they'll likely give you a whole list about all the ways that we're lazy, entitled, or selfish. And maybe this is just a bias because I'm so close to it, or maybe it's just the people that I interact with, but the millennials that I know are some of the hardest working people that I do know. And we don't love the idea of a 9 to 5. We're always looking for ways to hack our work days so we have time for more work and play. If we're not feeling fulfilled at work, we'll happily pick up a side gig or some other sort of passion project to keep us busy, keep us feeling fulfilled. We like to stay busy. We like to work on things that we like to do instead of things that feel more like an obligation. And this will come into play a little bit more when we talk about messaging in a few minutes. So this is probably my favorite right here of our reputation. I don't have screenshots of this, but I've seen videos about how we can't do basic things like read a ruler or tell time on an analog clock, but apparently we don't know how to use Google either. So that was just kind of funny to see that pop up. And I don't know if this counts as using Google correctly, but I did go through about 14 pages of search results for the search term millennials killing industries before I got to anything that was even remotely positive. These articles, and this is kind of where my perspective is, these articles suggest that maybe we're not killing industries, maybe it's not our fault. And I did feel a little bit of relief to see that there's articles like that are out there. Like I said, we don't actively try to find industries to kill. We're just looking for ways to make them better and make them adapt to this increasingly digital world. And if businesses or industries aren't suited for that kind of change, they're just not going to survive in this day. It's not anything bad about that business or about that industry or a fault of theirs. It's just the nature of today's changing landscape. So what's the reality then? We value our time and we want to make the most of what we have. We like experiences. We like to travel. We like to attend music festivals. We like convenience. So we like to order rides on our phone. We like to order food from our phone. We like to stream movies and TV shows on our phones and laptops and smart TVs so we can watch what we want, where and when we want to watch it. And we also like sharing. We like to share our experiences with each other and have social proof of what we're up to. And we love our pets. I saw something recently that many of us, are delaying having kids until later in life. It could be that student loan debt, we don't feel ready, we don't feel financially stable. But some of us are buying houses specifically so that we have room for our pets. So our pets are kind of like our children for the time being. That's just a generational shift. We're not buying houses because we're starting families. We're buying houses because we're growing our family in terms of the pets that we own. So that being said, like I said, we're very busy. We like convenience. So if you're looking for what works when it comes to marketing, if you want to reach us, you have to cut through the clutter. We're always on the go. So you'll probably want to send us a compelling email, maybe throw some emojis or popular terms or sayings in there. But do make sure that you're sure of the context. I've noticed that there's some phrases or sayings that have a very specific context or have taken on a different meaning or context than they used to, and it can get a little weird with some pop culture sayings if you use them incorrectly. And I'm not trying to sound patronizing here. I'm not saying that you don't understand the way that we talk or the language that we use or anything like that. I just know that even I get confused sometimes, and I have to check with my friends to make sure that what I'm saying makes sense. I might use a quote and they look at me like I'm crazy, and I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm using that incorrectly. Like, that's not the slang anymore or whatever. And I've seen brands fall short of this when they use the wrong context or don't fully think through what they're posting. And it risks appearing inauthentic or off-brand, or in the worst case, sometimes even a little bit offensive. And same thing with hashtags here. If there's a hashtag that's getting a lot of attention and you want to get involved with it, just make sure that it's trending for a positive reason before you use it. I've seen some brands get into trouble. I can't think of certain hashtags off the top of my head, but when you jump on a popular hashtag and then you look at what everybody else is posting associated to that hashtag, it's not always something that you want your brand associated with. So even though it's something popular, something that everybody's talking about, you don't always want your brand, associated with that. So, but either way, follow your emails with a mail piece. I mean, we never get mail. There's a stat that the response rate to direct mail for 18 to 21-year-olds is 12.4%, and that's compared to the latest industry average of, a generic 9% for house files. So direct mail is also very effective for us because not millennials take marketing at face value anymore. We're very, very wary of fake emails, spam, phishing schemes, account hacks, things like that. I personally, when I get an email, I look at everything and I examine the email very, very closely to make sure if I click on it, it's not going to take me to some like weird site, or I'm not going to get some sort of malicious thing added to my browser or anything like that. I'm very wary of that myself. But direct mail adds a layer of authenticity to these offers. So if we see an email that we've already gotten a direct mail piece for, or vice versa, we start to trust the sender a little bit more. And you also want to find us on social media. We don't mind Facebook or Instagram ads as long as we know that they're legitimate and that they don't disrupt our experience of sharing our lives with our friends and family online. So like I said earlier, we love the idea of sharing. We love the idea of social proof. We want to show our friends and family what we're up to and the things that we're doing, and we want to see what they're up to as well. And we're fine with seeing Facebook ads on there, but they can't I don't want to say they can't look like an ad, but they can't disrupt the experience. They have to look like a natural part of the news feed. So it doesn't, you're not going from a post from your mom or another family member, seeing an ad and then immediately seeing something from one of your friends, and it just kind of looks disjointed. You want to make sure that it's kind of flowing cohesively. So as we're scanning Facebook on our phones or on our computers or whatever, it's not disrupting our experience. But it's important to make sure that no matter what channels you use, you want to use an omni-channel strategy for them. I do have a recording of another webinar that I can send you if you want to learn more about omni-channel. But the main takeaway that I think is super, super important is that it's not direct mail versus digital. Your omni-channel strategy for 2019 should be focused on how all the channels work together to grab attention, and then actually keep that attention too. So you'll want to make sure that you're planning your email, your direct mail, your social media, everything together as if we're going to interact with all three, because sometimes we will. And sometimes it does take seeing your message on a few different platforms before we trust your brand. So like I said, if I get an email from someone that's never emailed me before, I'm going to be very, very critical of who's sending it, why they're sending it, what they want me to click on. But if I've also seen that logo on a Facebook ad or an Instagram ad, or if I've seen it in my mailbox, or I'm signed up for informed delivery, so I get a quick preview of what's going to be in my mail that day. If I start to see that brand in more than one place, I'm going to start to trust it a little bit more myself. So one thing to take away here is that you just want to make sure that your messaging is clear and cohesive no matter where we're looking. And another suggestion that I do have along the omni-channel side of things is to put a retargeting code on your website to stay in front of us until we're ready to buy. I might be looking on a website for shoes, and I decide I don't want those shoes just yet, but I'll come back to it later. If I do leave that page, seeing an ad for that website will encourage me, oh yeah, I didn't buy those shoes yet, I should go back and get them. And it just kind of pulls me back to the website and encourages me to complete that purchase. So that's just another effort, just another touch point. They all go a long way towards, like I said, getting noticed, capturing attention, and keeping the attention as well. So then we might wonder, what are some things that might not work? Where do you have to get a little bit more creative with your marketing? Things like TV advertising in the cord cutting, the Netflix, the Hulu, the Amazon Prime era, or radio advertising where there's the likes of like Apple Music, Spotify, and Pandora. You just have to get creative with how you're planning your ads. And I'm not saying that you should cut your entire traditional media budget for radio or for TV if that's what you focus on, but there's just different ways that you can think about taking a new approach to it. So, maybe instead of a 30-second TV ad, maybe it's a 6-second YouTube ad. Maybe instead of a radio ad, you put a spot on Spotify or Pandora. And again, just remember that it's important that your content doesn't disrupt the user experience for these ads. There's always an option to upgrade to ad-free paid versions of these apps and services. So some people will pay more, or if the app is free, they will pay in general to avoid seeing ads. But if you are, integrating your ads and then, like I said with the social media side of things, putting them as sort of a natural part of the user experience, then they'll be more receptive to sitting there and listening through it. They won't, mute the ad or take their headphones out for a minute or whatever they might do if the ad isn't interesting or relevant to them. So just a couple things to think about there. But above all else, one thing to really, really keep in mind is that you want to make sure that you're sharing your story with your millennial audience. As Simon Sinek said, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And I think that's especially true for us millennials. We care about the why. We care about what drives you, what motivates your company. We care about where our money is going and what it's supporting. If your organization seems a little bit sketchy or your founder seems like, a rude person or something like that, chances are we're probably not going to spend our money with you. But if you do have a great organization, you help a lot of people, you're great to your employees, things like that, we're in. We'll definitely, be your customer. But we just have to make sure that we know your story. Make sure that you're sharing it. You're sharing it with us. You're using your direct mail, your emails, your Facebook ads and things like that to really capture who you are as a brand, what you're doing and what your impact is. And when you attract our attention that way, we'll be more likely to go to your website, read a little bit more about you, and then again, start to trust you a little bit more. So as we wrap up, and it looks like I was able to do this presentation in 20 minutes instead of the 30 that I planned. Like I said, this is a topic that I could talk about for 2 hours. So if you guys have any questions, once I get through this wrap up, please let me know. But as we wrap up, I hope that this presentation inspired you to think a little bit differently about how you're approaching millennials. And I recommend that you definitely use omnichannel strategies. And I know I probably presented a lot of information in this short amount of time. But the main thing that I'd like to leave you with is that it's a lot easier to reach millennials than you might think. A lot of people get caught up in the idea of trying to figure out how to market to us. You might think, oh, millennials are so elusive. I don't understand who they are, things like that. But the key is to really just take an omnichannel approach to storytelling and just be authentic and very clear in your messaging. And if you ever need any help coordinating an omnichannel campaign, we're there for you. For those of you that aren't familiar with Compu-Mail, we're a full-service mail service provider. Our primary focus is delivering quality print and mail solutions, and our expertise in various disciplines of direct and omnichannel marketing might provide you a valuable solution to simplify your campaigns. So in a couple days, we'll send you the recording of this presentation, and we'll also send you a copy of our latest white paper on millennials. And that white paper will really cover a lot of what we covered here, and then it also includes some additional sound bites and quotes from the other millennials that I consulted with when I prepared for this conversation. I already blended a lot of this into the presentation already when I used the collective we when describing millennials, but I do want to make sure that you have access to some of the direct responses that were shared with me. So with that, we will move to the question portion. I'll just start off by saying, a common question that I hear is, what's the best way to reach millennials? And honestly, I don't think there's a best way to reach millennials. I think that it really depends on, which millennials that you're targeting. So like I said earlier, there's the 3 different subsets based on where they are, in their life across that generation span. And it also depends on the nature of your business. And I can't stress highly enough that you just want to make sure that you're being authentic and on brand with any piece of marketing communication that you put out there. So if that's not helpful, if you're still wondering, what's that way I should reach them, let me know. I can, help you out, do a little consultation, see who you're going after, see what your business is like, things like that, and kind of help you put together that strategy. Okay, and it doesn't seem like we have any questions, so With that, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us for this online lunch and learn. I hope you enjoyed the presentation, and have a great rest of your day. Thank you.